Hi folks, John on the Wingman 115 channel. Thanks for checking in. Today we're going to be talking about a new knife from Tops. It is the Brush Wolf, so stick around. Hi folks, thanks for joining me. Today I'm out in my backwoods playground. We are doing some testing on the Brush Wolf. I've been following along with the design on this knife for a while. I'm a member of the Tops Facebook group. It's their user enthusiast group where I was first introduced to the Brush Wolf probably about a year ago. And as you guys know, I like just unique design blades. Now, this one is a modified Nessmuk, and it's like a Nessmuk on steroids. It really intrigued me. So I reached out to the designer, Aaron Morgan, and he sent me on loan his personal knife to use. Now, he's been carrying this knife for about a year and a half. So what I'm going to do today is put it through the paces out here in our backwoods playground. But first, as always, we're going to cut away. I'm going to do a quick specs rundown. I'm going to show you up close this knife, and then we'll get to testing. And as always, we'll bring it back 360 for some final thoughts. Folks, it doesn't get any better than this. You, me, a beautiful day out here in the mountains, and we're reviewing knives. The video starts now. Now, I can tell you that the way that the saber grind is on this knife is going to make it really nice for batoning. Because you can see how once you get past that cutting edge and the angle of that saber grind takes over, it's almost working like a wedge. There we go. I'm hitting a rough, twisted piece of grain on this. Get it through. There we go. Nice clean cut. Oh, this is sweet. The way that the Nessmuk design of this blade just makes this a feather stick freaking machine. And the angle of the grind, I have to comment on that as well. I have to look up and see what the angle is. They've got it down to a science on this blade, because look how well it's doing, and it's almost making like onion skin style curls. I mean, when you can get a corkscrew curl out of a feather stick, that's just money right there, baby. Let's talk about it for a second. As far as I know, this is the first Tops knife design that has a 90-degree spine to be able to scrape a ferro rod to start a fire. Now, I have some of these fire starters. It's from Bigfoot Bushcraft, giving him a shout out. And we're gonna mash this up a little bit, kind of open up those fibers. Get that going here. Get that fluff. Spread it out a little bit. And that's got a nice little hammer pommel as well, just for doing stuff like this. So I have that birch curl. You never know, it could be pretty damp. So you got your fire starter, laying it down. Keep my birch close by for if we get a spark, land on it. And then let's see if we can get this party started. It's a brand new ferro rod, so bear with me. So we got it going. Get my fire starter. Now for some final thoughts on the Tops brush wolf. First, let's start out with the sheath. Sheath is basically a new design for Tops. They've really stepped up their game in the quality of sheath that they put out with the brush wolf. I was really impressed. Has a really nice welt in there, has a beautiful finish on this leather sheath, comes with a leg tie down. I'm a short guy, I don't really use leg tie downs, but it's there if you need it. The stitching on here is just amazing. So shout out to Tops. You did a great job at producing a nice high quality leather sheath. Now, let's talk about the knife. First off, Nessmuk design. This is the first Nessmuk style design that I've ever reviewed here on the channel, and I was really excited when I first saw this knife on the Tops Facebook forums. So a while back, I reached out to one of the designers, Aaron Morgan, and I said, hey, do you have any knives out there that I could review? Because they're really hard to get right now. Tops can't make these blades fast enough for folks. They're selling like crazy. Aaron goes, I don't have any knives in stock, but I'll tell you what. He goes, I'll send you my personal knife that I've been carrying for over a year. He goes, I've been testing this knife out in Florida, doing urban survival, bushcraft, just all sorts of stuff down there where he lives. He goes, I'll loan it to you. You test it out and put it through the paces. I go, Aaron, that's a pretty tall order. He goes, man, I want you to use this blade. So I go, I'll be your Huckleberry challenge accepted. So a couple weeks ago, this came in the mail. When I first took it out of the package, I was like, wow, I was like a kid at Christmas. One, the knife is just a little bit over 12 inches. It weighs almost 12 ounces. And the balance on this knife is right about 55-45 handle to blade ratio, which I think is perfect if you're chopping, if you're doing light slicing. It has kind of that forward momentum to this knife. So the balance on this blade, I think, is well thought out. And it's just a perfect combination for this design, as you can see when I'm chopping rope and I'm doing a couple other tasks. Now, let's start at the tip of the blade and we'll work our way back. We'll talk about this in detail. First off, Nessmuk design. I really like this design. They make for good choppers, good slicers. As you can see, feather sticks. It was cutting like just onion, peeling, skin, thin strips. It was just outstanding. And they have a saber grind on there. Now, you guys know that I'm not a huge fan of batoning wood, but I do it in these reviews because you guys want to see if the knife's going to perform. With this saber grind, I think it's a perfect combo with this design because the cutting edge will start that split and then the angle of that saber grind kicks in and then it's almost like a wedge and it protects that cutting edge. So it worked really well at batoning. The point, there's a angle on the top of the spine up at the point, but there's still enough material in there. So if you're getting in prying, stabbing, you gotta use this knife to dig something out. I am optimistic that you are not going to break the tip off this blade. There's enough material and this blade is wide enough that's going to protect that as you're doing that task. Has that little bump at the front, that Nessmuk style bump. Really good for batoning in that area. As you could see when I was batoning some of the birch. Then let's talk about the saw tooth on the back of the spine. First off, let's get this out of the way. This is for notching. This isn't for cutting down saplings. This isn't for taking trees down. This is for doing fieldcraft, bushcraft, campcraft projects. You're notching traps. You're making little notches to assist in slicing stuff out. Maybe you're practicing a tri-stick and trying to up your skills. That's what this notch is for on here. You're scoring bone. You're going to break that bone open and get the marrow out. That is what I feel this size of sawback is. Now, some folks might say, hey, that sawback's kind of small. Well, you have to think about that in proportion with everything that you have going on. If I go too far forward, now it's going to affect, quote, me batoning. If I go back, it's going to affect the size of this next item that we're going to talk about. Now, this is a first for me seeing this on any tops knife. It is a 90-degree spine. And with this design, I think that 90-degree spine in that area between that last cutout for the sawtooth and probably about a 1/4 inch before the jimping works very well on this. It's really sharp and robust, and it strikes a ferro rod really good. But it also works as a scraper. So if you're scraping wood to do fine details on campcraft projects, if you're scraping wood to make dust in order to get your tinder to ignite easier, it's going to work great. Now, let's talk about jimping. You guys know that I don't wear gloves here on the channel. I think in over 700 and quote 60 videos, I probably only wore gloves maybe 2 times in a video. I just don't like doing it. I like being able to feel what I'm doing, and that way I feel it protects me from cutting myself or having an accident. And the jimping wasn't too aggressive. It was just enough to be able to get in, do that fine motor skill work. And then I had enough space to where my hand really didn't slip too far up to where that really aggressive 90-degree spine is. There was enough room there, I feel, to be able to do campcraft projects or bushcraft projects. Now, let's talk about the handle. To me, I think the handle is, quote, one of the most important aspects of any knife. And this handle has a lot going on here. It's streamlined. It's got a pronounced belly in there. Now, I have medium-sized hands. They work really well with this design. That forward cutout, the finger choil, worked well. I really like being able to get in if you're chopping because of the balance of the blade. It just works really nice. And to me, I don't think you're going to wear yourself out. If you're in a survival situation, that's an important aspect to consider, is conserving energy, and you're not going to have any problem with that. Now, the midsection, the belly of this handle, for my medium-sized hands, it fits in there really nice. If you have super large gorilla hands, this might be a little bit small for you. You may have to get some tennis tape, some hockey stick tape, maybe run it around there. But for the most part, if you have medium-sized hands, if you wear medium gloves, you're in that transition between medium and large, I don't think you're going to have a problem with this handle. Also, I call a backseat grip. I take my middle finger and my index finger, and that way I'm able to chop if I really need to get a grip, or if I'm reaching in to grab something. There's just enough sweep on the back end, the pommel of this blade, where in all 3 motions, to me, my hand felt really secure. Now, I've done videos where sometimes it just feels like the blade's going to fly right out, and I didn't have that issue with this knife. You have a small hammer on the pommel. I like that. If you're processing items, like out here we have these huge Coulter pine cones. They're just huge. They look like footballs. It's just crazy. You can get in there, break them up, make some tinder. You can bust open some acorns. If you're doing, like I said, any sort of game processing, if you're doing food processing, that's going to work fine for that. Feature, lanyard hole. I have to talk about that. I get to review a lot of blades, and there's times when the lanyard hole, I don't understand it. You can't even thread paracord through it. This looks like it's about a 1/4 inch hole, maybe 3/16. Paracord fit in there with a lot of room to move. You could easily put 1/4 inch cordage in here if you needed. It would work fine. Bow drill divots on both sides of the scales. They're canvas micarta scales, and they're green. I think it complements the blade really nice. I like the fact that the point, the tip of the knife, is in line with this knife. It makes it easier to get in if I'm cutting, if I have to make a fireboard and I'm doing my initial notch in that. It just makes it a lot easier when the tip of the knife is in line with the handle. So this is a breakdown of this knife. Now you're going to want my thoughts on this. As a one tool option and a survival knife, as a bushcraft knife, this knife, I mean, a knife is the oldest engineered tool out there, known to man. It's been around, gosh, we can't even date how long that it's been around. It's been around that long. This knife as a tool, and you have to learn your tool. It's like using, power tools at home, a saber saw, a skill saw, a drill press, a wood lathe. You have to learn that tool. So you have to get a little bit of, quote, dirt time with it. This knife performed really well. I liked it. I think that it did everything that the designers intended it to do. Now, as far as a one tool option, I don't think there's a knife out there that's going to be, quote, perfect 100% one tool option. But I would feel very confident that if I went on a fishing trip, an expedition, I was going to be up in Alaska for a week, 10 days, 2 weeks, and we fell out of the boat and this was the only tool that I had, I wouldn't have a problem making a shelter, making a fire, making campcraft tools. I would not have a problem with this at all. So folks, with that, this video, it's a wrap. I want to thank you so much for your time watching this video, spending that time with me. If you want to learn more about this blade, I'll leave links in the video description below. And as always, folks, I'll see you on the next video. Take care.